As Irene said, I'm the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of dpa, which is Germany's largest news agency. And by training, I'm actually a business journalist. I started my career 20 years ago at the Financial Times Deutschland, when it still had a subsidiary here in Germany. And as a business journalist, I must say I am worried and I am still hopeful about the German economy at the same time. Why am I worried? Well, we haven't seen growth for 2 consecutive years, which is something that has never happened since World War II here in Germany. But I'm also very hopeful because we have a very robust industry, we have excellent scientists in this country, and we have excellent and outstanding research institutions. So, some analysts say that we are going to go back on the growth track, and that's also what the new government, which took office in May, has promised to do. So in this opening session, we'll take a kind of a macro view of Germany's economy, as Irene has said, and we will explore questions like what opportunities exist for foreign and domestic investments, what opportunities are there for you? What is the business culture like in Germany? Irene talked about shopping. Do Germans like to shop, or are they looking after their money? What's the general climate and what's the regulation climate? And of course, for this summit, very important, the question, where are we headed regarding women in business? And to help us tackle all these fundamental questions, I'm excited to introduce 2 outstanding speakers who will share their insights with us today and who I'm going to introduce now. So please welcome on stage Dr. Elga Bartsch and Tanja Gönner, and I'm going to introduce each of them once they are up on stage. Please give a warm welcome applause. So Dr. Elga Bartsch is the Director General for Economic Policy at the Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. And in this role, she is responsible of a very broad set of economic policy issues, including competition policies, public procurement, macroeconomic projections, as well as economic policy research. And as part of her position, she also serves on the supervisory board of the German Federal Employment Agency. Elga, prior to this role and prior to joining the ministry, which she joined in the last coalition, worked in financial service industries for 25 years. She headed the economic and market research at the BlackRock Investment Institute, and she was the global co-head of economics and chief European economist at Morgan Stanley in London. Welcome, Dr. Elga Bartsch. I am equally happy to introduce to you Tanja Gönner. Tanja Gönner is the CEO of the Federation of German Industry, the BDI, which is the most important representative organization of the German industry. She is in this role since 2022. And prior to this role, from 2012 to 2022, she was spokesperson and chair of the management board of Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, which is Germany's main development agency operating in over 120 countries. Tanja Gönner was from 2002 to 2004 a member of the German parliament as well, and between 2004 and 2011 she held various ministerial posts in the wonderful state of Baden-Württemberg in southern Germany. And with this, I must say I grew up there, so I know what I'm talking about. And with this, let's get started. I would kindly ask on stage here Dr. Elga Bartsch, who will give us an overview of the state of the economy in Germany.
Okay, so now that we have logistics figured out, dear Irene, dear Astrid, dear ladies, it's fascinating to address a room like this. I'm delighted to be here today, and on behalf of Minister Katharina Reiche, who would have been equally happy to attend this meeting if her schedule had allowed it, I would like to welcome you all to Berlin here today. It's a great inspiration to see so many talented and experienced women from all parts of the world ready to foster economic and social change for the better. I therefore want to use this opportunity to give you some insights with respect to the economic policy agenda of the new government, which aims to bring about a major change in the business environment. But let me start out by just making a few remarks about Germany's role in Europe and Germany's role in the global economy. There are currently slightly more than 83 million people here in Germany and a GDP of around 4.3 trillion euros, which makes Germany the third largest economy globally and the biggest economy within the European Union. And the European Union still represents the second largest economic zone in the world, with a share in global GDP of around 17%. And a key element of the European Union is its single market, with more than 440 million customers, and the single market permits people in Sweden, for instance, to buy products and services from Italy without any tariffs or other major obstacle to trade. There's also free movement of capital and of citizens seeking work across the Union. Besides, Germany and the European Union are characterized by the respect for the rule of law, an impartial public administration, a highly skilled workforce, and relatively low levels of income inequality. Thus, Germany and the European Union are great places to expand business activities. There is a strong industrial base, cooperative industrial relations, low inflation rates, a decentralized federal structure, both here within Germany but also in the European Union, and there are many hidden champions. Companies that are small and medium-sized, but they are top 3 in their respective market segment globally. Nevertheless, we have to do some work to improve competitiveness of the German and the European economy. Despite some fluctuations in activity due to major shocks in recent years, the German economy, as Astrid has said, has stagnated. In fact, it has broadly stagnated since 2020 already. This is in part down to major economic shocks, first the pandemic and then the Russian war against Ukraine. Overall, we were able to manage these shocks quite well and to stabilize the economy quickly. We therefore were able to prevent the feared economic collapse, especially after Russia switched off the gas supplies. And this was done with very comprehensive government support measures. But these shocks have also exposed the structural weakness of our economic model that has been concealed by the very strong track record as a winner in globalization over the last decade. Fortunately, there already have been some reforms addressing these well-known structural challenges, and contrary to the general perception, those reforms are already showing some effect. So just to mention a few, efforts in the energy sector are unleashing the potential for renewable energy and thus diversifying our energy supply. We have an overhauled immigration law that helps us to attract skilled immigration. We have cut back red tape, and we have simplified approval processes, which, amongst other things, has allowed us to do a very fast construction of the new LNG terminals that are servicing the German economy. But yet, we had last year a collapse of the coalition that was governing at the time, the so-called traffic light coalition, which gets its name from the three parties and their main colors, red, yellow, and green. And that, unfortunately, that collapse prevented the implementation of an already agreed comprehensive reform agenda, the so-called growth initiatives, which were a set of structural reforms, and those couldn't be implemented because the government broke up. And that government breakup, together with a lively fiscal policy debate, created some considerable uncertainty, which hampered public and private investment. But 6 months later, in my view, Germany is in a much more favorable position already. As you might be aware, the previous parliament passed a fiscal package that introduced a major change to our debt rules, which are enshrined in the German constitution. So the so-called debt brake had previously put some serious constraints on the government's ability to invest in infrastructure, digitalization, the transformation of the energy sector. The fiscal package consists of three main components. The first one is an exemption in defense expenditures exceeding 1% of GDP. The second is to allow the regional states also some borrowing leeway, which previously wasn't there. And then the third and important part is a special fund for infrastructure and climate action that will foresee investments of up to 500 billion euros over the next 12 years. Together, this package creates ample fiscal space, but the fiscal space, the fiscal spending needs to be accompanied by structural reforms in order to fully modernize the country and set it on the path for growth. So this is the backdrop against which the new federal government took office about 2 months ago. And now there is really a great opportunity to lay new foundations for a strong economy and a new growth cycle. So let me briefly talk about 3 phases in which these policy initiatives are going to unfold. The first and foremost aim is to restore confidence. And the fiscal package that I mentioned already presents a major opportunity to resolve the massive investment backlog, both in the public as well as the private sector. There are promising signs of a swift change in the mood amongst investors, be it financial investors, be it people who are interested in investing directly either in greenfield or brownfield projects. And this positive momentum is now bolstered by the Coalition Program for Immediate Action, which is essentially its 100-day program. It's here, we're even more ambitious, it's actually a 70-day program, and the major action needs to be taken before the summer recess of Parliament. So amongst other things, it consists of a substantial improvement of the taxation for corporate investment through accelerated depreciation allowances. These will be followed by a gradual reduction in the corporate tax rate from the current 15% down to 10% starting in 2028, which basically means that once the investment have been taken and they're starting to generate profits, the taxes will be lower by the time this happens. At the same time, the Program for Immediate Action also has a bill that makes sure that the special infrastructure fund that I mentioned can start as soon as possible. And the government will stabilize the electricity tax reductions for manufacturing, agriculture and forestry, and also plans to cut grid fees and levies on electricity, thus addressing the issue of the high energy costs within Germany. Lower electricity costs will strengthen companies' competitiveness and accelerate also the electrification necessary for decarbonizing the economy. So these and other measures are already visibly contributing to reduce the level of political uncertainty in Germany, and that's of course important for private sector spending, investment, but also consumer spending to pick up. So to restore confidence is the major policy priority in the coming months. Then, starting in September, we have a second phase, which will start to focus on the structural reforms, also agreed in the coalition agreement, as quickly and effectively as possible, which is important because these reforms need to complement the government spending. So these reforms would include things such as reducing red tape further, accelerating planning and approval procedures. It comprises rebalancing reporting duties on sustainability, foregoing gold plating of EU regulations, as well as introducing regulatory sandboxes where you can sort of do a practical test of new ideas before they're actually subject to regulation. Measures also include important measures to increase labor supply by increasing incentives to work, especially for older workers, but also for women. The modernization agenda for the state and an enhanced efficiency within the public sector. We also will embark on market-based reforms to reduce inefficiencies in the energy system. And so just to give you a taste of a number of the major measures that were agreed in the comprehensive coalition agreement. But there is also a third phase, and now I'm speaking as an economist to you, that would suggest that there is need to go even beyond the, what has been agreed in the coalition agreement. So to secure a long economic upswing, this third phase, the additional reforms, are crucial. And there are some areas where they are particularly needed, which is and difficult to do, which is the reform of the social security system, especially the pension side, but also healthcare. The coalition agreement doesn't provide detailed specifications of how these reforms need to be done. It is clear that they need to be done, but the details still need to be hammered out. And that's sort of an ambitious plan for the third phase. But Germany needs to stabilize social security contributions, because otherwise labor costs increase further, and so would the tax wedge, which basically means that you're reducing both incentives to hire, but also to work for at the same time. We also need to simplify the transfer system that we have for social security, for social transfers, to increase its transparency and to reduce the burdens of administering it, both for the public sector and for the citizens. So, and last but not least, we also need to continue to improve the quality of the education system, especially given the high number of young adults that we have that have no professional qualification. So that's also something that needs to be looked at in the longer term. So just to give you a quick taste of how the policy will be unfolding in this parliament. In addition, I should mention the ramp up in defense spending that I also mentioned at the outset. That's obviously key as well, and it needs to be designed in a smart way in terms of the procurement and in terms of using innovative technology, including enough startups. And so those I haven't mentioned much, but we can certainly get to this and other things in the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elga. And I would now like to welcome Tanja to give us her presentation before we then delve into a deeper discussion here. And of course, for everyone, if you have questions yourself, this is also your session. So please think already about the questions you would like to ask our panelists later on.
Well, thank you so much, Astrid, dear Irene, dear Astrid Meyer, dear Elga Bartsch, ladies, and I also saw a few of gentlemen, which we also would like to address. So especially ladies, but also the few gentlemen. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to and with you today. First of all, I would like to thank you for being here. Choosing Germany as the host country for the 2025 summit is both a great honor and a perfect timing. It is no secret that the last few years have been difficult years for the German economy. Despite the remaining challenges like tariffs disputes, where we are right in it, global conflicts and other encounters, the overall mood is improving. The new federal government has adopted an investment budget that demonstrates the will for a strong economy and hopefully decisive reforms. So I listened quite carefully to what Elga Bartsch was mentioned. According to our own, that means BDI's estimates, we are forecasting a GDP decline of 0.3% this year, but prospections for 2026, however, raise hope for economic growth. Yes, the German industry is expecting another difficult year, and it is too early to call it a sustainable recovery. Considering these circumstances, it makes it even more important that the German government has accepted that it will not work without economic growth and has taken initial measures to counter the negative trend. Germany has still a strong economy with a robust industrial base, a skilled workforce, a vital innovation system, and its legal security, or as Elga Bartsch respect for rule of law. Germany remains one of the most attractive countries in the world for doing business. It is Europe's largest economy and constitutes 24% of European GDP, while being home to 19% of the EU population. But beyond that reputation lies a country in transition. One that is not only open to innovation, but increasingly open to inclusion. And that includes the rise of women in business. Doing business in Germany means working in a culture that values structure, reliability, and long-term thinking. Germans tend to communicate directly. Working internationally in the past years, I know that some may say too direct. Meetings are punctual and focused, and relationships are built on trust and consistency. For doing business, there are plenty of opportunities. Germany is a leader in engineering and manufacturing, a growing hub for green technology and sustainability, a rising player in the digital innovation and AI, and the gateway to the European Union's 400+ million consumers with the single market. But you also have to keep in mind that it is a highly regulated environment with strong protection for workers, intellectual property, and contracts. It is part of the truth that Germany might not be the fastest moving runner in a global competition, but at the same time, it is a trustful runner. If I look to the female perspective, what is important when it comes to the female's perspective on doing business in Germany? Gender imbalance remains a reality, particularly in leadership roles and traditionally male-dominated industries like tech, manufacturing and finance. The gender pay gap is existing and women still face significant underrepresentation in C-suite positions. Access to venture capital for female founders is disproportionately low. And then there are, of course, social expectations. Balancing family life with a demanding professional role remains a challenge for many women, particularly given persistent cultural norms around caregiving and part-time work. Maybe we will deep dive in later on. But despite these challenges, women are an integral part of the German economy. Women make up almost half of the labor force, are highly qualified, and are increasingly working in sectors with a high proportion of men. Self-employed women create jobs for more than 3 million people in Germany. More than 700,000 small and medium-sized enterprises are run by women. Even if the progress of recent decades is clearly visible, equality has not yet been achieved. It is without questions that the efforts must continue. It is therefore very gratifying that the new Minister of Economic Affairs, Katharina Reiche, is a woman with many years of experience in both politics and as a business manager. There are more positive developments. Across Germany, we are seeing an unprecedented rise in support for female founders and business leaders. Initiatives backed by the ministry showcase women entrepreneurs as role models. Women-specific accelerators offering mentorship and funding access, and a growing number of female-led venture capital firms actively invest in diverse leadership. Germany's federal and regional governments offer a wealth of support for new businesses, especially those led by women. This includes startup grants and low-interest loans such as those offered by the KfW. Networks of women professionals are growing across industries, providing mentorship, collaboration, and community. More companies are implementing diversity and inclusion strategies, setting goals to promote women into leadership and make workplaces more flexible and equitable. The rise of remote and digital work has created more room for women to design careers on their own terms. So the Global Summit of Women 2025 is being held under the heading Women Restoring Values in the Digital Age, a topic that could not be more relevant. Currently, Germany has 70% of women in tech. That's not enough. Digitalization continues to change our lives at an unprecedented pace. In order for Germany to be successful tomorrow, we need everyone's innovative power and courage today. When developing and implementing transformative strategies, women must have a seat at the decision-making table. We need to combine their creativity and use their perspectives to develop new technologies for a diverse society. When it comes to digitalization in Germany, we are simply not using half the potential available. We need more women in digitalization, from classroom to business to politics. This is why the Federation of German Industries, together with Germany's digital association Bitkom, launched in 2022 the initiative She Transforms IT, an interdisciplinary network of women and men from academia, business, politics, and civil society to get more women of all ages in tech. Ladies, our economic, political, and social landscape is changing rapidly. The need to promote women in management positions and diversity in companies could hardly be more pressing. Germany's innovative and economic strength benefits from women shaping the digital and green transformation. Diversity of opinions, insights, perspectives, and backgrounds, as well as equal opportunities, are key drivers for business success in a sustainable economy. Many companies have already recognized this. After all, we need the courage, ideas, and innovative strength of all the bright minds in the country in the battle to make Germany a competitive business location and global digital technology leader. What matters now is the will to put these many words into action. In the future, no company can afford to miss out on economic, technical, and creative potential of diversity in the workplace. So when it comes to doing business in Germany, women are more than welcome. The parameters are generally good and the opportunities are present. And above all, there is still a lack of women in most sectors. So I wish you all a successful summit, and I'm now looking forward to the further discuss the topics together with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tanja. You just said that women are welcome to do business in Germany, and maybe a fact that is interesting to our audience is that Germany introduced quotas, for example, for supervisory boards already in 2014, and for women executives for listed and state-owned companies in 2021. So when it comes to legislation, we are a leader, but when we look at the list that the Global Summit of Women published yesterday, Germany only has one company, which is Bayer, on the top 10 list of companies with highest percentage of women board directors. And also we rank 8th on the list when it comes to female board directors. The quota in Germany is 34.4%. So, Elga, what do you think? What is still the biggest hindrance for women and for German business to get to 50-50? Because the legislation is in place, and as Tanja said, companies are developing programs. So why aren't we at 50-50 yet?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And Tanja Gönner mentioned Katharina Reiche, the current economics minister. She's only the second woman in the job. I'm the first woman in my job, interestingly. So things are moving along, but they are moving along relatively slowly. I think one of the reasons is that you lack a pipeline of talented women that have already acquired along their career path the necessary experience. And that brings me to the one fact that we have. Women do work in Germany, so we have an almost equal sort of participation in the workforce. But a lot of women work part-time, and not just for the few years where you might have small preschool children at home, but usually for the rest of their lives. And that is for a variety of reasons, cultural, the lack of childcare facilities, but also certain tax incentives and how the social security system works, that makes it, at least at first sight, unattractive to be the second income earner in a family, because you have a much higher marginal tax rate than your husband, because on his pay slip, all the tax breaks for the whole family go. So it looks as if you're making a lot less money than you actually do. And that, unfortunately, means that once you are on the part-time track, you don't get the necessary experience, and your career progression slows materially down. And one of the striking statistics, which I mean is more a look back than the current situation, but I think it's still worth remembering, there's something called in the academic literature the motherhood penalty, which is basically how much less you earn as a woman that has one or several children relative to another woman who basically kept working full-time. And in Germany, 10 years after the first child is born, that penalty is 60%. So a mother earns 60% less than a childless woman who kept working, who pushed her career ahead. And that is a combination of working part-time, so you earn less because you work fewer hours, but a considerable part is also the gender pay gap that Tanja mentioned.
Just to give you the numbers here, I checked them yesterday, 49% of working women work part-time in Germany. That was the number for last year, and if you compare that to men, it's only 12%, so that's a huge disparity. We have heard about the cultural aspect to this. At the same time, diversity programs in Germany have also been quite popular the last couple of years. What do you see there, Tanja? Because we see some things happening in the US where companies are being forced to maybe stop their diversity programs. Does that have any influential also on the local programs here in Germany?
Well, thank you so much. And I think you always have to have in mind that we have some different legal regulation. So the regulation in the US looking at the diversity is really different to what we have in the European Union. And I don't see that the companies are really changing within Germany and within Europe. They try to find a common ground, I will say, and be really in a strong contact how to deal with the challenges in the US, looking at these diversity programs, but they are doing their programs within Germany and also within Europe as they planned before. And that I think is very courageous, because it shows that they understand that we need the diversity, and only diversity can really give a push forward in a lot of discussions. I give you the example at the beginning. It was quite interesting for me leading the GIZ, the German Development Agency. There we were near to 50-50 in the board. We were around 55 to 54 on the second level. And it was quite interesting. Sometimes we have assessment only with women. And then I asked the psychologist, who was a man, I need his man view, because I had some questions and I was not sure with my perspective if this was the only right perspective. And I asked him to give me his view to the discussions. And I think I'm really convinced that we need the diversity, because we have different perspectives, and only bringing the different perspectives together, we will do the right things. And to talk about that, to showcase that this really brings much more success, I think, is what we also always have to do. Not only talk about, but also show the success.
Before we open up the session for you guys, I just want to ask you, Elga, because some German companies, one of the biggest tech companies we have stopped their global diversity programs. What signal does this send to the world if German companies stop their diversity programs just to be competitive, let's say, in the US?
I mean, I think Tanja, to some extent, already spoke about that. They're trying to find a common ground in the US to basically stay out of the crosshairs of some of the more random elements of US politics. But I think at the end of the day is what matters what they do. And I think there is now a very deep understanding that you need diversity in teams to really deal with an increasingly complex world. And in Germany, we have the additional need to really sort of deal with an aging demography. And so there are two elements, two or three. One is obviously encourage older workers to work longer, to stay on, maybe even beyond the official pension age. The other one is to the highly educated women who also have experience, but at the moment choose to work part-time, to incentivize them to go full-time. And then skilled immigration. So in a way, I think, away from the headlines of XYZ program, the economic need is there, and that's why things will be changing. And so I'm quite hopeful, because we cannot do this without women.
I see. Does anyone in the audience have a question? If you do so, and we really hope that you do, please raise your hand. There are mics on the floor, and someone will come to you. And we would like you to ask you to just stand up, maybe introduce yourself, and please say to whom you want to address your question. I see a hand over there. Oh, we are lining up. So here's a mic and there's a mic. Okay, thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Zoe Lange. I come from the company Orgatex, and I want to direct my question to Elga. It's regarding the question more or less that you made to her, the first question. I, as a woman, I am a software engineer. I work directly in the digitalization sector. I work full-time, and I have a concern. I belong to the millennials, I don't know, this generation, and I think there is still a conflict, a generation conflict, and this is concerning me a lot. I am also a mother. I work full-time, all the time, to more or less get a level in the family, and I understand very well what you explained. Anyway, I think there is still a problem with how we canalize the information to women that they go more in the business. For example, in my case, I started to go to my study to make an MBA or to be more in the leadership positions in my company as a woman and working in the technology field. Anyway, I confront a lot of impediments that make me make this step. It's a huge step with 2 children, with all these parents that I have to take care, working full-time, and there is still not enough support, I feel, not enough knowledge to the women outside, young women, to make the step. I understand the government is doing a lot to support all of these women, but the information is not arriving. The women need to have the courage and first to make the step. And then there is a huge wall and a lot of talented women are just making a step back because they don't find support. And I would like to hear from you maybe what another perspective for maybe young women here, also German women that want to make also this kind of steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you for raising a very important point. I think one aspect is we need role models. We need to make them visible. There are female business leaders, very impressive women in parliament, in businesses and so on, but sometimes they are not visible enough. And I think this is why events like this one are important, because you see more role models and can network better about common challenges, but you also see that others are struggling. And so I think information is an important part, but it needs to be organic through networking, through role models. And obviously these are changes that don't happen overnight, but I would encourage everybody to push for this. And it is quite interesting when you look internationally, because different countries have very different norms. And I've, for 25 years, lived abroad, so I only recently came back to Germany, but I can tell you that the conversations around motherhood and career goes very differently in France or Spain than it would go here. And this is, I think that shows you that it is possible, and is also different in the UK, where I used to work. So I think over time it changes, and the more international the environment is, the quicker we get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I guess we are taking... Okay.
Good evening. My name is Fariza. I'm from Malaysia. And this question I would like to ask to Dr. Elga. I wanted to ask you, it's very interesting to hear about the third phase, which is the restructuring of the social security. And I would like to know more, because when you said about pension, how Germany are going to do it? And it's very interesting because I don't think it's a very politically attractive. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
It's a difficult question, which is why it isn't entirely spelled out in the coalition agreement yet. And still, expert commissions will be formed, and intense discussions will surely follow within the government. Essentially, what you're going to do is have people work longer. At the moment, we have, on average, people retiring before the official pension age. And you also need to make it more attractive for people wanting to stay on longer, which also means that you might need a little bit more flexibility. So maybe people don't want necessarily to continue full-time. Maybe they want to go part-time after reaching the pension age. Maybe they want to take longer holidays and so on. All of these things, I think you need more flexibility, but it can be done, and it's done in a very smart way. Is what the Nordic countries, especially Sweden, have done. But it means moving many different dials within the pension system to encourage people to work longer and thus making the whole system more sustainable.
Thank you very much.
I'm Henryka Bochniarz from Poland, and I was more than happy to hear about the entire package that, let's hope, accelerate the German economy, as Germany is #1 economic partner for us. But I would like to ask you specifically about, the automotive industry, which is the major driver for you, but, we are very close connected. And knowing about the Green Deal regulations, the competition from China, how do you see the prospects for this industry in Germany? Thank you.
Well, first of all, the automotive sector is the most important industry sector in Germany. And it's clear that we all have the interest that it will be one of the most important sectors in Germany. It's quite interesting if I listen to my president of the Automotive Association, also a woman, if I may say. She always mentioned that there are 100 more cars going to, electric vehicle cars going from Germany to China than coming from China to Germany. Sometimes you got another impression in the discussions you have on the European side. But to be honest, yes, we are in the middle of the transition of this industry. And I think it's clear that transition is not easy. At the same time, we are in discussion with the European Commission about looking at the goals for 2035 or how to achieve this and getting more flexibility. But there, the car industry is in the mid of the discussions. The discussions also are going on with the German government, how to position on the European level, and we try to see the measures a little bit earlier to see if the decisions are going in the right way or if we have to change something. And there we are in the mid of the discussions, but it's clear. First of all, the German automotive industry will be successful in the transition. It is a way which is longer as we thought before. We are fully convinced that we are strong, but there are some issues we have to tackle with, and there we are in the discussion with the Commission.
Thank you, and it is this side this time.
Thank you. My question is to you. My name is Lola. I'm from the UK. I am a university lecturer, but I also have a passion project, and that passion project is for young people. So we support young people in 4 key areas: leadership, employability, entrepreneurship, and creativity. And I was very taken aback by what you said about young people. And what I'd like to know is, how can we take that conversation forward? How can we support young people? How can we take what we are doing, which is quite successful? We've been running our business since 2008, and we're in other countries. How can we support Germany? That's my question.
And that was a question for whom? You said for you? For me?
Yes.
Well, I think Germany is an aging population, and in a way, youth has become a scarcity, and I think young people really are about to realize that. I think for young people, for the young generation, the workplace and the future prospects are actually quite good. And what needs to happen, in my opinion, is that in many companies, organizations, Germany sometimes tends to be very hierarchical. And we have, at the moment, I think, up to 5 generations at work simultaneously. That also hasn't happened in the past. And so I think we need to start a very considerate conversation amongst each generation and to create workplaces where everybody is felt seen, and where we support each other. I think young people can support the elder generations when it comes to digitization, when it comes to content creation, all these things that older people tend not to know too much about. And younger people need that support to really have a seat at the table and to be heard when they open their discussions. And I think in Germany, to be honest, I am quite positive about the path for the youth, just because it has become a scarcity, which is not a good thing for our society. I wish we had more young people, and I hope this has answered your question.
One last question from each side.
May I add one more point? It's quite interesting to see we have to talk with each other. The generations have to talk with each other. And it's quite interesting to see that in companies there we have something like reverse mentoring. Because there are issues which is clear that the young generation is much more better than the elder generation. I learned from a young man how to use social media. And to understand the different things. I don't use it quite often, but I understand much more in talking to him, and he explained me how to use it, what does things mean, and I think we have to think much more about something like that.
No, that's okay. So one last question, quick answers.
Hello together, my name is Ayşe Özdemir, I'm from Germany, I'm a leader at Robert Bosch. First of all, thank you so much for these motivational speeches. I have the feeling I need to continue because I am a mom of a 6-month-old baby.
Yay.
And I'm working full-time. I have been only in maternity leave. Maternity leave in Germany is only 8 weeks. And then I was looking for a support because I don't have a family around, and it was just not possible. So my husband said, okay, he will stay at home. So my first advice to everyone is find the right man to marry.
No, it's true. It's true.
That's the first. And the second thing is, and this is my question to both of you, maternity leave is only 8 weeks, and I can tell you I came back to work and my body's still not recovered, and it's just too less. Are there any discussions to extend this 8 weeks? Because in many countries it's 6 months full paid. In Germany it's just 8 weeks full paid, and then there is no payment if you have a certain amount of money or
Income.
Income, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we're still debating because there is something called, if I translate literally, it would be sort of funds for education that you would be eligible to, but it's subject to an income threshold. I know that other countries, for instance, in the UK, they don't necessarily have longer maternity leave, but they allow you to work as long as you like just before the birth, and most mothers then push most of the time sort of post-birth rather than stopping a month before, which I think might be a nice thing to do because it allows you some flexibility, obviously, based on your own circumstances, and also the job that you do. It's probably easier to continue until the day before. If you have an office job, it's much harder if you work an assembly line. But yeah, congratulations on the husband, because that actually is important, that you have a partner that basically also later on pushes you out of the door. You have an important meeting, child is feverish, and somebody who says, go, 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 I have you covered. I think that is super important. But obviously, there's also a role for government policy in this, and also for company policy.
Well, I would like to add that I don't hear anything about discussions about to have a longer maternity leave. That has to do something with the whole system, because after the maternity leave we have, it's quite difficult because it's a very German word, the Bundeserziehungsgeld. And that's normally the ability, but that's what your husband now is taking, the ability to rest a little bit longer. And because having the whole system there is, as I oversee the discussions on the political side, there is no discussion about having a longer maternity leave, because thinking always in the system and not only in this, but thinking about the whole idea behind that. So I don't think that we have this discussion, and I don't see that there will be a change very fast in the next few years.
Thank you. But it's up to you to raise it within the company, within your political district, okay? It's up to us sometimes to bring it up. So do so to the right people. Last question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Rose Mangele. I'm from Cameroon. I'm a business owner, and I'm also leading an association of female entrepreneurs. I would like to ask a question to the president of the Federation of German Industries. But I would like to know if I can ask my question in French, because it's my first tongue, and I will well express myself in French.
My French is not as good.
Is it okay?
Okay. Commencez.
Ok, je viens du Cameroun et je dirige une association de femmes entrepreneurs, et nous sommes venus en Allemagne avec une ambition. Nous savons que l'industrie allemande a la réputation de fabriquer de très bons produits, peut-être pas les moins chers dans le monde, mais nous savons néanmoins qu'ils sont de meilleure qualité. Nous sommes venus avec l'ambition de nouer des partenariats pour le transfert de technologies de l'Allemagne vers nos pays africains et spécialement le Cameroun. J'aimerais savoir, vous, en tant que président de la Fédération des industries allemandes, quel conseil donneriez-vous à un chef d'entreprise camerounais qui aimerait nouer des partenariats avec une industrie allemande? Merci.
You want to reiterate the question?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Okay, but they will translate into French, so it's no problem. First of all, I will always try to get in contact. I'm not sure if there is an AHK in Cameroon. Do you know that? Because we have some special institutions normally in different countries, where all the German companies which are there are organized, and also some companies coming from the country. This would be my first answer. The second answer, if you're here in Germany, you should talk to the DIHK. Sorry, it's a quite not easy word, because they are dealing with the AHK, and they also have the structure where you can get in contact with the different companies very directly. So the chambers are very close to the different businesses, and they can support you in getting into contact. Third thing is, I know that we have some, it's called, and it is at the AHK, at the chambers, you have some called ESETS codes. That means they know the different programs in supporting also businesses in coming together, especially coming from African countries to Germany, and to get in contact. And there are some opportunities. So I think there should be a website coming from the Agentur für Wirtschaft und Entwicklung. That means Agency for Economy and Development, where you normally see the different programs, and that could be the right part for you to get in contact.